Hello, I'm Sally Pointer. I'm setting up for a new project today, and it's a perfect opportunity for me to use this fabulous Castlemilk Moorit fleece from this year's shearing. This came from Sturbridge Farm in Herefordshire, and a big thanks to them for also providing these photos of their flock. Aren't they gorgeous? Castlemilk Moorit's an interesting sheep. It was bred from Wild Mouflon, Manx Lowton and Moorit Shetland in the 1900s. So although it's a relatively recent breed itself, it draws on primitive sheep types, resulting in something that has a lot of characteristics that we might have found in the early domesticated sheep. As such, whilst it's not exactly the same, it'll be a good stand-in for my preliminary explorations of some aspects of Bronze Age clothing. This project is going to use the Egtved burial as inspiration, but I'm not going to pretend that this one is going to be any really in-depth example of experimental archaeology. More is what I often think of as exploratory archaeology, which essentially means it's me trying to build on my existing skills, but using an archaeological find as inspiration. Really, the end aim is to explore the questions that I'd want to answer in more detail in a more academic project. If I end up with something usable that I can use in teaching work, well, that's fantastic. Mostly it's so that I can iron out the kinks in my methods and work out what might have been going on at different points in the past. The first thing I need to do is sort my fleece. Now, with the typical fleece straight from shearing, there are going to be all sorts of mucky bits around the edges. You can usually tell which end's the head, which end's the tail. There'll be different textures of fleece at different areas on the body. And it is usually a case that you have to go right round it, pick out any mucky bits and split out the best quality from the poorest quality so that you can decide whether to blend them or whether to use them for different projects. This fleece, though, is a bit of a revelation. I've never had anything quite so uniform. Apart from the fact there's essentially nothing mucky about it, very tidy little sheep these, there really isn't any visible difference between the fleece at one end, around the neck, say, and the fleece more around the legs and the tail end. I'm not going to have to do any sorting here at all. It hasn't got much kemp. Kemp are the wiry guard hairs that you get in most fleece. In fact, I can't see any here at all. So it's going to make for very, very uniform processing. So quick sorting out, and really I can go on to deciding how best to spin it. Quality control cap firmly in place, this is Coru. I can decide how to prepare the fibre. This has got a really short staple and it's beautifully greasy, so I want to try several methods. I'll just fluff it up between my fingers. I'll also try a modern carder, just as a comparison, and I want to try combing it very lightly with a wooden comb. This is very similar to a hair comb. The whole point of any preliminary exploration like this is to let me work through what's going on with the material, and also to give me a chance to think through questions about how people may have processed things in the past and how modern methods might be either broadly similar or extremely different. So I am going to use some modern techniques as well as what I hope are appropriate for the time period doing this. If at some future point I decide to do a much more stage by stage accurate interpretation, then all the things I learn in this project will come into that. So just fluffing up the fibres gives you a really quite homogeneous result. I've probably overworked this first bit because I was busy talking over the top of it. Certainly just fluffing with the fingers works nicely, and you can see how short this staple is. It's beautifully greasy as well, so really just a very few seconds fluffing. Probably that's all this is going to need. It just evens out the tips and the bases, gives a chance for any vegetable matter that's in there to even out. That should be fine for spinning. That's probably what's going on. But combs are known archaeologically in all sorts of different styles. So the other possibility is, again, just use a comb to fluff it through. Now, I'm not doing modern combing where you try and keep everything aligned in a worsted fashion. I'm really just using the comb as an extension of my fingers here, just to open up these locks. And about the same amount of effort gives me something pretty comparable. Now with the carders, I am conscious that I've got an awful lot on my plate at the moment, and I may decide that I need to speed things up a little bit. So if I do, how different is carding? So if I stick to fairly small amounts, I'm not trying to make big modern rollags. It's the same sort of quantities as I'd use just fluffing with my fingers. Let's have a look. There's my other two samples. You know, that's pretty much of a muchness, isn't it? The difference being that that was a tiny, tiny bit on here. If I do get pushed for time, I can do probably in the same amount of time 3 or 4 times as much. So the carder is my backup plan. If I decide I need to work in a real hurry, I might card some of that, but probably I'm just going to tease between my fingers, I think. Pretty sure that'll do the trick. Possibly the tiniest little bit of a comb, but otherwise I think we're ready to start spinning.
With any new fleece, it's also worth taking a bit of time to experiment with spinning styles. I've got spindles in my collection that cover the whole realm of potential weights and shapes, from ultralight to really, really heavy, and I took some time to try 4 or 5 lightly ones out just to see what this particular fleece liked. Now I want a fairly good amount of twist to this finished yarn. It's going to need to stand up to the tensions of the loom without needing to be plied up. And in the end, I settled on 2 relatively heavy spindles. One's got a stone whorl, one's got a clay one. Both just have sticks for the actual spindles themselves. That means they're a little bit more wobbly in use than some modern spindles, but they work perfectly well for my needs.
So the next thing I need to do is get on with the spinning. Now my natural spinning, and I've been spinning for a fair number of years now. I was about 8 when I taught myself, and I'm quite a lot older than that now. My natural spinning style is relatively thin, so I do need to check how close this is to the yarns in the original. Now I can look that up, that's quite well known. That won't take me too long to work out. Once I've adjusted my spinning style to suit, I just need to get on with it and spin some more up. And then the plan is to probably do the belt video first, and if everything works out the way I'm hoping, it's going to be about equal parts a tutorial, as in this is how I've done it, if you want to have a go too, these steps should work, but also my thoughts and observations about what I might do differently if I was trying to get even closer to what we think is happening in the originals. Now, if you're watching my videos in the order that I'm producing them, you'll also know that I've got a big nettle project on the go at the moment. So that definitely is going to be popping up again fairly soon. That's coming up with lots of interesting things at the moment. But hopefully it won't be too long before you see this. So probably the belt first. It's a relatively small project. I can get on with that. And then we'll see where we get to with the string skirt. And I promise I won't model it. Don't worry about that. And the shirt. So that should be it for now. I will see you back again probably in a few weeks for the next one in this series. Till then, happy crafting, and have fun with all your different projects.